No, it's not. It doesn't show up that much.
All right.
I mean, my show isn't very high tech
All
anyway.
right.
People would expect a microphone anyway. It's not like we're making Gone with the Wind 2.5. Okay, starting off. I guess, are we keeping it all in character?
You tell me. I mean, it's hard for me to not. I always feel like it's a weird disconnect for me to talk as Roberta in this
Okay.
outfit, you know?
We'll keep it all in your character.
All right.
So, ask your host, what is the background? What would you say your background is?
My background? Well, my mother's name was Desiree. I have a sister named Cremora. I have a weird cousin Henry, and a manservant named Dweeb. And Rasputin helps me from time to time as well. That's the only background that's relevant. I have no other skills, so my family has to help me.
It occurred to me, like, why don't you tell us where we're at now, and we're at the Feast of Horrors convention.
Oh.
Just a setup of where we are at the interview.
All right. We are at the Feast of Horrors convention in beautiful Wichita, Kansas, which is a lovely gathering to raise money for the renovation and restoration of the historic Orpheum Theater downtown. Whoop-de-doo, isn't it good that we're all here for such a good cause?
And give me a brief history of your show.
Well, I don't know that a brief history is possible because there was so much packed into those 9 years. But the creature feature began on Kansas City 41 in 1982 and ran until January 1st of 1990. And I'm Crematia Mortem, and I was the hostess of the creature feature the whole time that it was on the air, which is a good thing because there wasn't anyone quite like me, you know. And the show was shown every Saturday night at 10:30, and then it got later and later, then 11 o'clock, and then at 12 o'clock, and then it just, poof, disappeared. So that was the history.
Okay. Next up is, what is the origin of your character and the origin of your host name? Or both combined?
Okay. Crematia got her name from Walt Bodine, the very famous Walt Bodine, the dean of Kansas City Broadcasting. She was searching for a name appropriate to her energy. And her friend Roberta came up with the name Crematia and said, that should be your first name. Walt Bodine gave her last name, Mortem. And for a while she was married, but she was a hyphenate, Crematia Post-Mortem. But I just kept my married name for simplicity's sake, you know.
And if you can describe it, what would you say the type of host you are?
The type of host I am?
There are ghouls, there are vampires, there's vamps, there's mad scientists. Do you think your host has a type?
I've never given that much thought. I don't even know what I would be, because she's kind of a hybrid vampire thing, and I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that.
That's okay.
Okay.
Talk about the opening sequence of your show.
Well, the opening sequence of the show changed from year to year. When I first started, of course, the camera just opened on me, standing next to this, I don't know if you can see it, this beautiful, well, this candelabra, which still, by the way, has the same candle wax on it that it had 17 and a half years ago. The camera opened on me standing in front of the candelabra, and that was it. Low budget, don't you know? As the years progressed, we changed the opening sequence of the show to include art from some of our viewers, and of course some of the graphics people at Kansas City 41. We had to keep them employed, you know. But the art from the viewers opened the show year after year, and we would have a contest every year to see who could create the scariest painting that was used to open the creature feature.
Thank you.
So much. Oh, yeah.
And you talked about candelabra, so let's move ahead to interesting behind-the-scenes stories. You mentioned the coffin.
Hello.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Or anything else?
Yes.
$6 left.
Well, when the creature feature came to an end, you know, every week I would step out of my coffin and say, "Good evening, boys and ghouls, it's time for another bad movie." Well, when the show was over, that coffin stayed in the KSHB studios for quite some time. They became an NBC affiliate, and Tom Brokaw came in to debut the station as an NBC station station in Kansas City. And I wonder if he ever knew that while he was doing the nightly news, right there from Kansas City, there was a coffin behind the news set. He probably didn't know. I wonder what he would have thought if he did.
Yeah, actually,
You know, I'm trying to, some of them are like really long. I do remember one time we had a fellow who came on the show and he had designed a giant monster costume made out of paper mache, and he got inside it on stilts. And we had some beautiful music playing, and I was supposed to look across the crowded room and see him and fall in love, and he was supposed to look at me and fall in love, and the music swelled, and I went, "Oh, my love, I've waited for you forever." And he looked at me and went, "Whoa," and began to walk across the set with these big clumping shoes of his, and he tripped on the rug, and all 8 feet of him fell like a tree, and you could hear it creaking as he fell over, and boom, he landed on the floor, and a big pile of dust went up, and from inside this giant paper mache thing I heard, "Can you get me out of here?" It was very funny, although I didn't laugh at the time, and he was fine.
Do any of the original shows, how about the shows, do any of the original shows exist, or are there still any shows left?
No, well, there is some archival footage available, and I'm trying to compile that and make that available to viewers. But we were too cheap to record our shows and keep them every week. We would tape over the last week's show. So we didn't start archiving the shows until the very end of the Creature Feature, when we had 7 or 8 years under our belt. Every week in the beginning of the show, we would tape over what we had done last week. So there's really no record that I ever existed at all. Pity that.
Any other things you can think of about the show that you might want to add?
I'd love to come back. Ooh. Write your congressman. Tell him or her Crematia Mortem needs to come back to Kansas City television. Wouldn't that be lovely? Ooh.
Possibly plans in the works? Can you elaborate on that?
I've been talking with people. Unfortunately, the people haven't been listening all that much, but there have been some conversations about bringing Crematia and the Creature Feature back to Kansas City television. Stay tuned to this station for further details.
Okay, just 2 more things. Could you give me just a Basement Sublet of Horror idea? You're watching Basement Sublet of Horror?
You bet. You're watching Basement Sublet of Horror. Woo!
How about do you give me a greeting for the Basement Sublet of Horror audience?
Sure. Hello, boys and ghouls. This is Crematia Mortem. Did you know that your host of Basement Sublet of Horrors is hot? Well, watch, and you'll discover it just like I did. Ta-ta!
Okay, thanks. That'll do. That was good.